Hey there, my name's Joe Keyport, and you're listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. For this week's episode, I talked to three members of the local band Mouthful. Now, if you're not familiar with the band, you absolutely have to be. We're lucky enough to have them play on an Ear Coffee benefit show earlier this year. They put out their debut EP in February. It's called I Am Trying to Be a Pool. It is a great indie rock, indie folk mixture of just fantastic songwriting. And this interview was a really fun time to learn about the band's process and kind of how it's grown from almost being a solo performing act into a full band. Without further ado, it's the band Mouthful, and they're right here on the Ear Coffee Podcast. How's it going?
Good. Hi.
Good. Hello.
Well, we're excited to have you on the podcast. I've been loving the EP since it came out a couple months ago, a month and a half ago now.
Yeah.
And so just kind of starting off, you want to just introduce yourself so people can put some names to voices if you want to say your name and what you do in the band?
Yeah. My name is Bean, and I sing, play guitar, and I write most of the songs, yes.
I'm Chloe. I play guitar and I do some harmonies and stuff.
My name is Brandon and I play bass.
Oh, cool. One of the questions I always like to ask bands, especially on this show, is how do you describe Mouthful to people when they go, oh, you're in a band? What is that? You know, like, what music do you make? What's your line? Because usually it's like your aunt at Thanksgiving, or it's
right.
like the coworker who isn't in the know. And what is that kind of go-to line for you to try and describe the music that you make to people?
I usually respond with something like, oh, we're like an indie rock kind of folk band. Have you ever heard of Big Thief? And then they're like, no. And then I'm like, oh, well, we kind of sound like Big Thief. And then it kind of trails off.
Yeah.
Usually I just end up listing bands we're trying to emulate.
Yeah.
And see what sticks.
Yeah.
Because usually I think of us as like doing indie folk, but like a lot of the stuff on the EP I wouldn't strictly describe as indie folk,
right.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I say, oh, we're like an indie folk band, and then I'm like, wait, I don't know, we got guitars.
Well, folk music have guitars.
Yeah. It's a jumble. It's a word salad. I think it's very like, I don't know. We just play music. Because the genre question is like the hardest question, I think.
Genres are a scam anyway.
That's how I feel, yeah.
But I don't know. I always like a good label for things. But yeah, when I played the last band I played in, it was always like, there's like guitars and also a violin. I don't know.
Yeah, that's so real.
Well, cool. So let's talk about how you guys formed. I kind of doing some sleuthing around on the internet. I think some of you guys played in other bands. Some of you guys is your first project is like a full band. So how did that all start?
Yeah. So Mouthful specifically started because it was Chloe's birthday a year ago, and I was at her birthday party, and we kind of drunkenly talked about playing music together. And then go ahead.
Sorry,
no,
I had just been at your last like 2 or 3 shows where you were just playing either by yourself or with this bass player you were playing with.
Yeah.
And every time I was like, how do I let me play guitar with her?
Yeah. We've all at least the three of us have known each other for like more than 2 or 3 years at this point. So yeah. And then Chloe and I started playing music together, and then our drummer Spencer we're all just kind of good friends, and it just kind of like dominoed effect into Spencer wanted to play drums. Brandon was always around and wanted to play bass.
Yeah. And I've been in bands with Chloe, and I have right now playing a band called Jenny Matrix, and we were in a band since our teenage years called Kids Ski Free. So we've been playing together for a while now, and every time Chloe starts a new project, I try to like slither my way in there.
I like playing with Brandon.
Yeah. So I think that's a huge element of it too, is that these two, Chloe and Brandon, have known each other since like high school. So Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
And being for someone who kind of was a solo artist before, what was it like hopping into a band or suddenly like, oh, I could actually put a little more to the music, especially for as a live performer?
Yeah. It was something I like always wanted to do, but never was like, that's just not going to happen for me. Like I'm too whatever, like I can't do it. And I think it really like, I don't think I could do a band with anyone else besides Chloe, Brandon, and we've been playing with Spencer. Like, it's just a very, like, it's scary. It's vulnerable and it's scary at first. But it's also like all you want as a solo artist is to have other people enjoy your music. So then you get the first few like, oh yeah, I like this. And then you gain some confidence and it's really slow at first. And then it feels really comfortable now, but it is a very scary, vulnerable thing. And I feel really lucky that I can do it with these people because I don't know if I could do it with anybody else. Yeah.
Yeah. So Chloe, for what was it about like Bean's music that you two wanted to like get together and, you know, start doing a project then?
I just really liked it. That's all it was I really liked her singing. I really liked the words that she was writing and the melodies and the way that those were interacting. And I could just tell from the way that her music was and from like covers, like you did Naomi by Neutral Milk Hotel. And I was like, okay, I think we gotta play together. Yeah, it was just, I could just tell that we were on the same wavelength about some things musically. And I was just drawn to, just thought what she was doing was cool, and I wanted to be a part of it. That was all it was.
And I think, like, I think I joined it because I was living, right now, I was living in the other half of a duplex that Chloe was living in.
Okay.
And they would practice, Chloe and Bean would practice in the basement of the other half. And when I was in my room or just moseying around my house, I would hear them practicing, and I was like, oh, shit. I should probably get in on this.
Got to hop in on another project. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And Bean just has a really, like, is like a wonderful poet, first of all, and like lyrically is very interesting, and unlike a lot of other like bands I've sort of seen in the area lyrically, and also just has a much different approach to songwriting than any of the other bands I've kind of been like played bass in. So I just found it like a lot more kind of, I found it very exciting and compelling to join something kind of in its like adolescent stage instead of like hopping in a band with like already kind of like established musicians who've been playing together for a while, if that's what makes sense.
Yeah. Well, what about the songwriting, Brandon, that like is unique to you?
That's a good question. Like, I think, well, I don't know how to.
Can I answer the question?
Yeah, you can answer.
Well, I want to answer because one of the first times I showed a song that I wrote to Chloe for us to play together, she said something like, oh yeah, this is a singer-songwriter who's writing a song right now.
Yeah.
So I approach a song lyrically and melodically first. And I'll play it on guitar. I write on guitar, but like I'll have the chords and stuff, but I'm also not a great guitarist. Like I have guitar isn't my first instrument, so I have to work with what I have. So I think by unique, you might mean like just, I don't know, you've just never heard it before because I don't know, because it's just kind of, it was mismatched at the beginning. It was really like a weird puzzle that I was trying to put together. And I think that's why, like, I wanted to play with people because I wanted to have people come in and like figure out the puzzle with me and not do it by myself. So yeah, sorry not to take your question, but
no, I think you answered that wonderfully.
Gotcha.
Thanks.
And then how long have y'all like individually like been playing music? I forgot to ask this before we kind of got into the meat of getting into the band, but how long, Brandon and Chloe, you guys or y'all have been playing since high school together? Like how long have everybody's been making music?
Yeah.
I recorded this is true. I recorded an EP on my dad's computer when I was like 6 or 7. It was just me banging on drums.
What was the one song?
It's All Right in the Bright. That was my banger. That was kind of my.
That was my banger.
And it's just always been the thing I've been interested in. So I don't even know. I don't remember starting to play the guitar. I think I was like 10, but I have videos from me when I was like 11 of me like playing guitar and singing songs, and I don't think I ever took a lesson or anything for that. I took piano lessons for like 15 years, but yeah. Sorry, I answered that really long-winded.
No, that's okay.
I've been playing since I was a child.
Yeah, I think I bought like a really cheap bass with like allowance money when I was in like 6th grade after playing Rock Band 2 a bunch at a friend's house. Then I took lessons for 6 months, gave up, and then when Chloe and her friends started a band in high school, I was like, you should let me play bass in it. And that was like freshman or sophomore year of high school, and
I think junior year.
Yeah, junior year maybe.
It was a little later.
And that's when we kind of got serious. And then I don't know, I played saxophone in school.
Oh no, there was a sophomore year. Yeah.
How about you, Dean?
I started piano lessons when I was 7 and did that all the way up to like 18, but was never really that. I love the piano, but once I realized that I could like sing, I just had my teacher like play the piano while I sang songs. So I've always been in choirs, like school choirs, and I've like taken voice lessons here and there. But I taught myself guitar through like fucking like YouTube videos when I was like 14. And I kind of stopped at like all the major chords, but I'm still learning every day. But yeah, I've always had music has always been a big part of who I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're good. Get your water, girl.
Awesome. So the debut EP for Mouthful is called I Am Trying to Be a Pool, which was released mid-February. How does it feel to have the debut out?
Sick.
Yeah.
Sick as hell.
Yeah.
It was like a lot of the songs, that whole project, like our first show together as a band was January of 2024. And so putting it out in February of 2025, like it just felt really cathartic to be like, okay, like this is out now because we've been playing these songs for so long, which is great. But it was honestly just like, it's motivated me especially to like write more and put more out because I'm like, oh, it's actually great to have a place for your music to live, because for so long we were just like, follow us on Instagram. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been really cool. Yeah. I don't know if you guys have anything to say.
No, I'm on the same page. I'm just stoked that it's out there.
So then let's talk about writing the record. How long, being as a solo artist was kind of looking for the right people to start a project, were these songs sitting around for a while with you, or as the band formed, you were able to kind of build out these songs?
Yeah. When we formed, there was a set list of like 5 or 6 songs, that only one of those songs is on the EP, which is Fine Song. So the 5 it's 5.
Yeah.
The 5 songs on the EP kind of were written in the year that we started playing together as a band. So Fine Song is the oldest one, and I think it kind of, to me, it makes sense that it's the oldest one as far as like the writing goes. Like I think you can progressively see like the change in my songwriting and stuff. And like the song Mouthful, came from being in the band. A lot of that is about like that whole experience. And so it was kind of written throughout that past last year. And it's a very specific time in my life. And these 5 songs, like it's a very time oriented EP for me, at least. It's like that. Okay, that describes this time of my life.
And so what about that time in your life really inspired those songs?
Yeah. Well, I was going through a lot with Mouthful, the first line is like my porch is falling off the front of my house. I was living in a place that the porch was literally falling off the front of the house. And there was some stuff going on there that kind of, just a lot of like transition as far as like moving out there with the people that I was living with. And also at the same time that was like really stressful and tough for me, I was also falling in love for the first time in a long time. And just a lot of transition, like so much change happened in the past year. And so I call the EP, I think at our show the night before we released it, I said that the EP was for the lovers or for the lover girls. Because it is about change, and it's also about, of like 4 out of 5 of the songs are about my boyfriend. So
there's pining and longing.
And
each of those songs.
Yeah.
And so for, Chloe and Brandon coming in and kind of adding to these songs, what was it like for y'all as musicians to come in and help fill these out?
I was just going to say that it was, again, I think really fun and exciting for me because when I joined the band, Bean obviously had never been in like a full band before. And Spencer, who played drums on the EP, had like started drumming, I think maybe like a month or a few weeks before I like started playing bass with them.
Yeah.
And it was really fun to like see how much we like exponentially improved after like 3 months, just by virtue of like all of us being very new to this. And like, especially when you're starting to pick up a new instrument, if you like, commit at least like a little bit of time each day to it, there is such a massive improvement. So it was just really fun to kind of bear immediate witness to that. And also like I live with Spencer at this point too. So it was like all the 4 of us have all been like very good friends for a pretty significant period of time. So although there was like kind of like a gap in like experience, it never felt as though like anyone was being sort of like dragged along or singled out. And it was just generally, it's been very exciting to see us improve, and also see with that improvement has come along like a real like sort of reshaping and like clearer defining of like our sound and the kind of music we make and the kind of band we are.
Yeah.
Especially when I like listen back to like old recordings of our first shows and then compare them to like the EP. I'm like, damn, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So it's just been fun in that realm.
Okay. And so then how does the process work as a full band to kind of bring songs together? Does it start being with you as some lyrics, or is it kind of the whole band is working on some instrumental and you build from there? What's that all like?
Yeah. So far, it's really been, I'll come down to the practice space with lyrics and chords, like bare bones. And we just kind of start jamming on it and figuring out what we like and what we don't like. And it's really collaborative as far as like, we'll start playing and Chloe will play something that I like and I'll just yell into the microphone like, I like that. Like, that was good. And I don't know, but I think I that's how it works right now and has worked. I think we're in a cool phase right now where we're a little bit going through some changes as a band too, where I think it would also go through with our writing process, where maybe we do start with a guitar part or like and maybe we add another guitar to the band. I don't know.
There could be things happening.
There could be things happening that change the songwriting process, but yeah.
Yeah. I think that it's you Bean usually has more or less like full lyrics to a song, a couple, sections and the chords, and then usually it's just figuring out, okay, how are we all gonna come in? What are we gonna play? Are we gonna put a guitar solo in? Are we gonna put a instrumental section in? How are we gonna make it feel? But the songs are generally speaking pretty fully formed as songs before we start to play them, and then we just kind of like create the arrangement, which is really fun. Sometimes like the last song on the EP Days was written by me and Bean, but even then you had like the lyrics and the melody, and I just put the chords under it.
Yeah.
And then like Bean and Brandon have written some stuff together too, but that all happens outside of practice.
Yeah. That's also that song. We kind of like hit lightning. We like we read it in like 2 minutes. We wrote it. Well, I had the lyrics before we started playing it, but I was just like, Chloe, I don't know how to play guitar to this, but I want to do it. And then we just kind of did it, and that song will always be special. And like since then, we've tried to write together, and it's still good, but it's like what?
I think the vibes front porch were good.
Yeah, we were sitting.
It was the porch that was falling.
It was the porch that was falling.
But it was like the weather was really nice, and I think one thing is that when we've tried to write since then, it's been like in my living room, which is like this just pit of a room.
It's more couch than not.
There's this huge couch. The room is weirdly large, and there's like 40 posters on the wall, and it's
Got to recreate the porch.
No, we do have to do that.
Literally.
Yeah, I do want to ask, what about Spine Song made it last from that original kind of set list that you worked from? That being kind of the OG that made it onto the EP.
You don't like? No one else likes that song except me, I think.
No, I love that.
Okay.
Now I'm kind of sick of it just because we played it at like every show for a year. Like every single show.
Yeah.
But I loved that song. That was one that I was insistent about, I think, for a while, because just that, as Bean said earlier, it was in the initial batch of songs she sent me. And that one, when I heard it, I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Chloe just likes it because she gets to do those like fucking like volume swells on guitar.
Yeah, and I do.
Radiohead app,
and
like.
So it's actually I was trying to make my guitar sound like a pedal steel guitar, but it only kind of does.
For a second I thought it was, as a steel player myself, I was like, oh shit, there's some steel on here, and I was like, no, that's not quite right.
You play steel?
Yeah,
that's what I was trying to emulate, because I just love the sound of pedal steels, but because I don't have a pedal steel, instead I was just doing kind of volume swells on my guitar, which is actually, the technique is more inspired by Alex Lifeson from Rush.
Oh, okay.
In the song La Via Strangiato. So I had to pull that out on you guys. So that's where I got the idea to do it like that from. Sorry, I've got.
No, you're good. That's the reason why we're on a podcast, to talk about all that.
Yeah, I think also, it was the most different of the original set list, and I think I think I totally agree with what Chloe said. But I go through phases with loving and hating Spine Song. But that's just kind of how it is for every song too.
Yeah. I like Spine Song a lot. That's why we put it on there. Because I like it, and Brandon, like, we got to put this one on there.
Yeah.
And I get to do a harmonica solo on it.
Yeah.
I think that was honestly a big selling point.
Yeah.
Every time that the harmonica was pulled out at a show, it was like the crowd went.
Yeah, I know. The first time I ever did that, everybody cheered, and I was like, oh.
Love the harmonica.
Yeah.
Harmonica's a good time, you know?
Yeah. It really is. Don't play Halo. You can play it.
Yeah. So then I wanted to ask, when listening through the EP, one of the things I was like really drawn to was how instantly visual these songs are, and not to be kind of like a describe music in TTRPG terms, but like there's a lot of world building that goes on in this EP. Each song kind of really sets you in a place that allows you to kind of experience what you're talking about through it. So how important is that to write so visually?
Yeah. Well, that is a huge compliment. That's like what I aspire to do with songwriting. So I'm glad it was successful, because sometimes I'm not sure, but it's wildly important. Mostly because that's the kind of stuff that I like. I like to listen to songs that I can be somewhere else completely. And most songs do that, but I think specific artists like Big Thief, or for me personally, Julia Jacqueline, like she also does this world building thing like so well. And so it's not that I try to do it, but it's also just kind of like, you kind of write what you know. And I know the certain music really well. And it's important because there's way more heart in the songs for me if I'm able to like do it in that kind of way. Yeah.
And have you always sort of written that way, even from like your personal stuff before Mouthful?
Yeah. I love imagery and poetry, and I'm not a good visual artist. So if I can use my words to create an image, that's like what I love to do. And also the band name Mouthful comes from basically me liking the image of someone with a bunch of food in their mouth. Like for some reason that's like gross and weird to me in like this visceral way. And that's like, I was like, mouthful is kind of a visceral word. And so that's why the band that's the name. So I feel like that always has to be an element to the writing, and that's how I've always kind of done it.
Well, also, like, you're a English major, and you kind of cut your teeth in a lot of like creative writing, and like short stories and stuff. So I think a lot of the world building and like imagery you use makes a lot of sense when you sort of consider that is like sort of what you spend a lot of time doing creatively.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to move to just kind of the recording of the EP. Is that something you all did yourself, or were you guys able to go into a studio somewhere, or?
In the basement of the very house we are sitting in right now is a pretty decked out home studio with the combined gear of our drummer Spencer and the drummer in me and Brandon's other band, Brandon, also named Brandon. So there's all sorts of nice stuff. So yeah, it was the whole EP was recorded by Spencer and by our friend Amanda. And we did it all here in this house. This living room we're sitting in right now, the last song Days, we recorded in this room.
Yeah, and when we recorded the album, it kind of went through like two phases, if I'm remembering correctly, where I think it was around May of last year, we attempted to record, I think it was like 7 or 8 songs live.
I think it was more. I think we did like 10 songs.
That's ridiculous. Why did we? Well, we did 10 songs live. Recorded them here. Spencer and Amanda engineered. We did this thing where we recorded like half of them upstairs in this living room, and then half of them down in the basement, depending on like what the sort of feeling was, and just like moved a big old like snake up here and kind of engineered it in the basement. And we ended up scrapping all of those except Days just upon re-listening.
And Mouthful.
And Mouthful. Yeah, Mouthful.
The song Mouthful also came from that.
Yeah, and that was mostly just because, I mean, one, we weren't as tight of a band then as we were like 3 months ago when we decided to go back and like multi-track everything else. But the other factor too is that just like recording live in this space would prove to be a bit complicated in terms of like just bleed from vocals and drums and having everyone in the same room like that without much like ability to kind of like sequester and isolate different frequencies proved to be like way more complicated for mixing than we kind of first assumed. So then I think, when was it? Summer of last year? When we went back and multi-tracked everything?
Yeah, summer.
Yeah, and that's when we recorded, what was it? Good Girl, Final Boss, and Spine Song. I think we redid and multi-tracked them, like drums and bass together, and then overdubbed guitars and vocals.
Yeah. It's been a long time.
Yeah,
it's been a long time. Yeah.
And then Spencer and I and Chloe, I think all of us individually kind of went along and added like overdubs, whether that was like weird sort of like ambient tape stuff or synth drones or whatever kind of. For the drums and at the end of Final Boss, for those drum sounds, I think what Spencer did is he took like a really old microphone, held it up to like the dryer downstairs and like slammed the door and used like the compression from the sound as like a snare drum or some like insane Phil Elvermass shit for that. So he went along and did a bunch of goofy, cool stuff.
Yeah.
We were trying to make the end of it sound like Samurai Sword. The microphones.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then our friend Brandon Tang, who again plays drums in Jenny Matrix and plays drums in a band with me called Lena Leon, went in and mixed all of the songs except Days, and then Spencer mastered them. But yeah.
Oh, cool. And when kind of thinking back through the whole process, is there like a favorite moment or memory, whether it was recording or writing or even a show over the last kind of like cycle for the EP? There's always something you guys kind of think back to?
I have to think. I don't know if
I think for me, we were just talking about it, but recording Days up here in this living room felt very intimate and very much like it was nice it felt less like we were in the studio and more like, well, we're just jamming in the living room.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that vibe definitely comes across on the recording. And so I also remember it being like sunny weather like this, but it very well might not have been.
I think it was.
Yeah.
So that would be a big one for me.
I think for me it was either I remember after we originally tracked the multi-tracks, there were several like, because I was living at this house with Spencer at the time and we were the only two in the band living here, and there were a few nights where I would just have to like convince a very reluctant Spencer to like, please can you record this guitar track? It's going to be really loud, and like I need to tune this 12 string to open D, and like I need you to mic it, please. Like, okay, fine, and like reluctantly use it. And that was always fun to just kind of hang out with him.
Yeah.
But also I think our like impromptu kind of release show on was it the night before Valentine's Day?
February 13th.
February 13th, which was at 7th Street Entry with like Bugsy, Fend, and Haze Gazer, was like super fun, and our first time as a band playing at 7th Street, and was a very fun crowd, and very kind and sweet.
Yeah, I was gonna say that recording here, like, and having big long days, we would have like meals. So like we planned out meals for us because we were here for a long time. And there was one time that we like made spaghetti and meatballs with garlic bread, and it just felt like very family. I don't know, like we're just eating together and we're working on this project together, and having everyone like set aside time to all be in a space for like 8 hours a day is not something you can like convince most people to do, I think. So it was like just that vibe, that time and that vibe of like, oh, we're recording, we're all kind of here and we're eating together, and yeah, that's definitely a big one for me. Yeah.
Well, awesome. One of the things I always like to ask bands, especially when they're kind of newer projects, kind of getting off the ground, like what is something you really want to come from this project, or kind of what is that big goal you think about when looking at the future of like Mouthful?
I want to make $100 million.
Want to sell out? Get all that
Coachella.
get all that D&D money or DIY money. Good Lord.
Yeah. And
D&D money too.
We're gonna start a campaign.
Yeah, we're branching out.
Yeah.
The next Mouthful EP is going to be a tabletop RPG.
It's gonna be a fruit basket.
An NFT.
My first answer to that is like the immediate future is putting out an album. Like obviously there's stuff I'd like to do, like tour and play certain shows with certain people, certain like dream bands and stuff. But I'm really excited right now about writing an album and writing something that's different than the EP. Obviously it'll be similar. We're the same musicians and stuff, but I think in my songwriting since the EP and stuff, I've just kind of changed some things up and grown and done some stuff. So I'm really excited about putting out an album.
Yeah, I think all I want from the band is to keep being fun and to make some music I think is cool in the process. And really it's an excuse to hang out with my friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say.
I like that aspect of it. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think I agree with both of you in the sense that, yeah, the reason what I want from Mouthful indeterminately is to be able to hang out with my friends and make things I enjoy and have fun doing it. And also I am excited to hopefully record stuff in the future and also just keep playing shows with other bands that are also our friends and continue doing this for as long as we can.
I will say, as much as we're a band, we're more of a friendship project. I just think that's anything we do, recording or making t-shirts or doing anything, like we always just have a friend doing it. And it's kind of one of those things that, I mean, I'm sure that's the case for a lot of bands, but something about it, I'm like, it's like just so special. And I feel like whenever in the bio, when people ask for bios for us, I always just want to say something about like 4 friends making music or like 4 friends hanging out. Like
right now our bio, it's like, maybe it's not on Spotify, but for 7th Street or something, it was like, Mouthful makes music by friends for friends.
Yeah, that was, because I didn't know what else to say. But yeah.
Nice. And I just have a few more questions for you here. We always like to ask what's kind of next for the band. What's coming up that people should be on the lookout for?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know when this podcast is out, but we have a show on Friday, April 11th.
Yeah.
After the Ear Coffee show, this will come out.
Yeah. I think we just finished recording 2 songs that we're gonna work on some more. We're not totally done with them yet, but put them out hopefully late spring, early summer. That I'm really excited about, just throwing some more music out there. They're fun songs, I think. And yeah, we have a few shows in spring. Nothing like crazy. I don't know. What did you have an answer?
I think we're just gonna play music.
Yeah.
In the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, some shows. Hopefully. Oh, what are we talking about? We got we've got 2 songs that we've been working on. That we're gonna put out.
Yeah.
Hopefully like next month.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah.
And just 2 songs that we've been playing live that it just felt right. They felt like they sort of belonged together, and so we've been working on recording those, and those should be out soon. So that's something in the near future.
So and then we're playing at Seward this month. We're playing at Pillar in May. With Walker Ryder, that's going to be cool. So May 29th, Walker Ryder, Pillar Forum. Cool. I'm really looking forward to that. Walker Ryder's sick ass band.
Yeah, I like Walker Ryder.
That's going to be fun too.
Oh yeah. We always also like to ask bands kind of their local favorites that people should kind of know, like get to shout out the homies a little bit. Obviously, this is a non-exhaustive list, so we could be here all night just naming people. Right. But usually people grab their Spotifys or your local, your regional, people should know about.
Jenny Matrix, but unironically, Jenny Matrix, Walker Ryder,
Little Famine Carpet, and Q Pup is the project of Luke Roberts. Luke Roberts, really interesting, like kind of experimental, like ambient freak folk that deserves more love. And obviously, I've been listening to Disc by Fend. So that's been on repeat for like a month and a half at this point now.
Love Allergen, Hot
Bagels, CIA PSYOP by Hot Bagels. Great. Haze
Gazer's great.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot of really good.
There's a
lot of. Those are the ones that feel somewhat connected to Mouthful to me. I could just keep going with local bands that I like a lot. But yeah.
Well, cool. And then finally here, where can people go to stay up to date on all things with Mouthful? Yeah.
So our Instagram is the word Mouthful and then the word music, just Mouthful Music. Instagram.com. And then our Spotify is also just Mouthful. That's pretty much Instagram is where I talk about everything. That's about it. Yeah. Mouthful Music on Instagram, Mouthful on Spotify.
We're on like Apple Music and Bandcamp.
We're on Apple Music and Bandcamp.
Everything else too.
I think on Bandcamp it's like MMM Mouthful. Bandcamp, Mouthful. You could send me a carrier pigeon. I live near Uptown, so everyone lives near Uptown. So
the carrier pigeon will know where to go.
Yeah. But that's that. Yeah.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Congrats on the new EP. It's fantastic.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. This has been fun.
You have been listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. If you like what you heard, please rate, review, and share so we can stand out against the sea of other music podcasts. You can find information and other important links in the show notes of this episode. If you would like to support us, please consider subscribing on Patreon for early access to live sessions and other bonus content. You can also subscribe to our Substack for a regular newsletter with reviews, ramblings, and anything else we have to say. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.